Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down big topics into clear, actionable insights. So today, we're going to tackle that universal feeling of being stuck and really dig into the science of how to get moving again.
You know that feeling? This quote from a Reddit user just nails it. It's this persistent flatness where nothing seems worth doing and any kind of effort just feels pointless. If you've ever felt that, you are definitely not alone. And it's not a character flaw or some kind of personal failing. It's a condition.
For way too long, we've just chalked this feeling up to being lazy. But the truth is, well, it's a whole lot more interesting than that. Today, we're going to reframe procrastination, not as some moral issue, but as a problem of emotional management, and a brain that's operating under very specific and, this is the important part, very changeable conditions.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at why the procrastination trap is just so darn effective. Then, we're going to uncover the surprising role of dopamine in our motivation. After that, we'll explore our brain's autopilot system, learn how to find that elusive state of flow, and finally, I'll give you a practical toolkit to start making some real changes, like today. First up, let's get right to the heart of the matter. Why do we actually procrastinate? And let me give you a hint. It has almost nothing to do with how you manage your time. And here's the real kicker. Procrastination has very little to do with being lazy and everything to do with avoiding uncomfortable feelings. As researcher Janhavi Panmar explains, our brains are just wired to seek immediate relief from discomfort. That's why when you're staring at a challenging report, your brain basically screams, "Hey, let's go scroll social media instead." It's a quick escape. And that impulse for a quick reward, well, that brings us to a really crucial chemical in our brain, dopamine. Understanding it is the absolute key to understanding our motivation, or, our lack of it. Now, most of us think of dopamine as the pleasure chemical, but that's really only half the story. It's actually our motivation chemical. It's the thing that makes us want to get out of bed in the morning and chase our goals. When our dopamine system is balanced, even everyday tasks can feel pretty rewarding.
The problem is, our modern world is like a fire hose of what's called cheap dopamine. All these things give us an instant reward for basically zero effort. This constant overstimulation makes our brains less sensitive to dopamine, which drops our baseline level of motivation way down. And the result? Real life, which requires actual effort, starts to feel dull and flat in comparison.
So this constant chase for cheap dopamine doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It actually builds these powerful automatic scripts in our brains. We call them habits, and they form our brain's autopilot system. Every single habit you have, whether it's checking your phone the second you're bored or going for a run, it all follows this simple neurological loop. You've probably seen it in books like The Power of Habit or Atomic Habits. A cue triggers a craving, that craving motivates a response, and that response provides a reward. This little loop is what makes habits so automatic and so hard to break.
So here's the most crucial point. If you're having trouble changing, the problem isn't you. The problem is your system. Bad habits just keep repeating themselves because we have the wrong system for change. A system that probably rewards procrastination without us even realizing it.
Okay, so if our current systems are flawed, what's the optimal state of engagement we should be aiming for? Like, what does it feel like when we're truly productive and actually enjoying it? The state we're all aiming for is called flow. And you know this feeling. It's when you're so absorbed in something that the rest of the world just kind of melts away, right? Time flies, self-doubt vanishes, and the work itself becomes its own reward. So how do we get into this amazing state? Well, flow happens at the perfect intersection of challenge and skill. If a task is too hard, you get anxious. If it's too easy, you're just bored. But right there, in that sweet spot, where the task pushes you just enough, that's where you find flow. And this brings us to what is, for me, the most exciting part of this whole conversation. Our brains are not set in stone. Thanks to something called neuroplasticity, we can physically change our brains through our actions and experiences. Every single time you repeat a behavior, you are strengthening the neural pathways for it. I mean, think about that for a second. We have the power to literally rewire our own minds. Now, for the best part. We understand the why and the what. So let's build our practical toolkit for the how. How do we actually make these changes and get our motivation back online? James Clear's Atomic Habits gives us this brilliant, simple framework for this. To build a good habit, say going to the gym, you make the cue obvious by laying out your clothes. You make it attractive by listening to your favorite podcast while you're there. You make it easy by picking a gym on your way to work. And you make it satisfying by tracking your progress. To break a bad habit, you just do the exact opposite. A really powerful strategy to start this rewiring is what's called a dopamine detox. It's all about resetting the reward part of those bad habit loops. So first, you got to be honest with yourself and remove those sources of cheap instant gratification. Then, you just have to brace for the withdrawal. It will feel worse before it gets better. And finally, and this is critical, you replace those empty habits with activities that require real effort and produce genuine, lasting rewards.
And that recovery process, it takes time. You have to be patient. As one Reddit user who documented their journey explained, that first week is absolutely the hardest. But then, by week 2, small things start to feel good again. By week 4, you start feeling real engagement return. And by week 8, ordinary life can feel genuinely rewarding. You just have to trust the process while your brain recalibrates.
And to overcome that initial inertia, that feeling of I just can't, use these simple mental hacks. Make the task feel smaller. Tell yourself you'll just do it for 10 minutes, because we all know starting is the hardest part. And give yourself permission to be imperfect. The goal is action, not perfection. And try creating positive triggers, linking a new habit to something you already do every single day.
But ultimately, the most powerful way to make change last is to focus on your identity. So don't just focus on doing a workout. Instead, try focusing on being the kind of person who doesn't miss workouts. Each small action, each tiny win, proves this new identity to yourself. As James Clear puts it so brilliantly, your habits are not just actions, they are evidence. With every small choice you make, you are casting a vote for the person you are becoming. Real, meaningful change happens one vote, one small habit at a time.
So what's the big takeaway here? Real change isn't about one giant, heroic leap. It's about a series of small, consistent steps. It's about all the little votes you cast for the person you want to be. So the question I want to leave you with is this. What's one small vote you can cast for yourself today?